We have a quorum, and it's the appointed time. I call the meeting to order. Item 1 is confirmation of minutes. The minutes of the first meeting on the 23rd of November 2016 has been given to members. So far, the Secretariat has received no proposals for amendment. Now I ask members to confirm the minutes. Items for discussion. There is a list of items for discussion. This has consolidated issues proposed by members. The next meeting will take place on the 23rd of February, which is Monday. The days changed. The Chief Secretary for Administration will attend this meeting to report to members about the latest financial situation of the WKCD. The meeting will be on the 21st of February at 10:45, but we don't know what is going to happen. Yes? If the incumbent CS4A has resigned by then, who would take her place? I don't know. Well, an official will attend the meeting. In the next meeting, we will discuss the update on the financial situation of the WKCD project and the update on the development of M+ and museum matters. We were going to discuss the financial situation of the WKCD today, but we have no time. If there are no problems, we will go to the agenda, the third item, update on the progress of the WKCD development.
好，咁我哋而家咧係歡迎政府嘅當局啦，同埋西九文化區嘅代表。
I welcome the administration and representative of the WKCDA. I'll ask the administration or the WKCDA to present the paper. I'm very glad to be here with the WKCD team to give you to attend this first meeting of the Joint Subcommittee to monitor the implementation of the WKCD project. Since this is the first meeting, I'm going to give a brief presentation of the project. WKCD is the Hong Kong's most important and the large project of the largest scale. It is going to be an integrated arts and cultural destination of an international standard. The vision for the project is to meet the long-term infrastructural and development needs of Hong Kong's arts and cultural sector, to provide quality programs and to foster organic growth and development of cultural and creative industries, and for it to become a hub for attracting and nurturing talents. Since 2009, when the project has started, we have gained very good progress. Between 2009 and 2011, there has been three-stage public engagement exercise to work on the draft development plan. The draft development plan was prepared based on Foster Plus Partners City Park concept. In March 2012, in accordance with the Town Planning Board ordinance, we gazetted the plan, and in 2013 it was approved by the CE in Council. And since then, the design and construction of the various arts facilities have started. We have the WKCDA has fully used all the land allocated to them. That is from CG Center near Canton Road to the east and all the way to the west, which is currently used as a nursery and M+ museum and various facilities. For the other side, they are currently being used by the high-speed rail Hong Kong section as a work site for the terminal of the XRL. The first batch of art and cultural facilities are being completed. For the temporary nursery in July last year, it has already started being used. An M+ pavilion work has been completed in the middle of this year and it's been opened. In the coming 3 years, we're going to have the Situ Center, the Lyric Center, and also free space and M+ pavilion, M+ building and art park. And in the Lyric Center, there is going to be a black box theater. We are going to have a number of, for the Lyric Center Theatre Complex, there is going to be a 1,450-seat Lyric Theatre and a 600-seat medium theatre and a studio theatre of 250 seats. We have picked up our space in temporary nursery. Every week there are activities organized under free space happening. There are pet activities and also farm fests, etc. In the last quarter, the free space activities have attracted 50,000 people. And so far, starting from September this year, there are altogether 40,000 people who have attended. For M+, there has been M+ of a pavilion, there has been 2 exhibitions. We hope that with these activities, we will enhance understanding and expectation of the public, and it will also serve to nurture and attract talents, which is very important for the success of this project. And WACDA, since its establishment in 2008, has been gathering different ideas to work on this project. After its approval of the design plan, the WKCDA has started various work, and in this year there will be some facilities being commissioned. They believe that this will bring economic and societal benefit, and it also brings diversity and different opportunities for youngsters. I will now defer to Mr. Prescott, the CEO of the WKCDA, to give you a PowerPoint presentation.
So, my task today is basically to bring you through the project and explain exactly what is happening on the ground. And I want to emphasize 2 points. First, this project isn't just about building buildings. It's about building the content of the buildings, building the audience, building the programming. And what I hope to show this morning is that this is exactly what we're doing. We're approaching this on a 360-degree basis, looking at the buildings, of course, first. And as you can see from this slide, the progress is actually quite substantial. Looking at this end, obviously starting with the Situ Center, and I'll talk about the individual buildings as we come on. Then the M+, the main park, the Lyric, and of course the central section here, which when we get back from the MTRC, hopefully by the end of 2018, we will be ready to start work as soon as we get it back. Critical issues that need to be borne in mind is that the work in this area is already well underway, and I'll come back to that. The work in this area is very much well underway. Indeed, even up to this point, a lot of the basement work has already been undertaken by the MTRC on our behalf. What we need to do next is complete the central basement section, and that will allow us to do the rest of the developments. In terms of timing, essentially within the next 3 years to 4 years, all of the buildings that are shown in the darker colors here will be opened. Indeed, the pavilion is already opened. The M+ is under construction and will be open in 2019. Situ Center open in 2018, and the park 2017-2018, with the free space, the small black box theatre, opening in 2019. So let's look at the individual facilities. Of course, starting with the Situ Center, designed by the late Canadian architect Bing Tom with Ronald Liu and Partners. This is going to be a spectacular space, designed particularly for Chinese opera, Cantonese opera. It comprises a number of key spaces. I'm just showing 3 of them here. At the ground level, we have the atrium, which will be an active space. We can do performances, but we can also do marketplaces, we can do exhibitions. It will be open 24/7. There are no doors to this space. It is a public space. Above that, on the next floor up, this area shown in red here, we'll have a small 200-seat tea house theatre, which will give us the opportunity really to demonstrate at a much more cozy level, that's a good word, a cozy level, exactly how people can appreciate this wonderful, wonderful art form. And then, of course, above that, the magnificent 1,100-seat main theatre. I say above that, and this is one of the issues that we're going to have to deal with, because of some of the site constraints, notably the MTR line going right under. We've had to raise the theatre to avoid noise and vibration problems. That is going to be a challenge, how we operate the facility. Nevertheless, work is very, very much well underway. And as you can see from these shots, not only has all of the essential structure been completed, we're now working on the facade to enclose the building. While at the same time, this area here essentially represents the atrium and is, as you can see, also very well underway. The next one, at the other end, the art park. Now, personally, I think this is one of the most important facilities because it's the one where nobody has to pay to get in. You can just come and lie on the grass, bring your dog, bring your cat, bring a bottle of wine and enjoy the space. Work has already started on this facility. We are at the point where essentially the landscaping, the hard surfaces are all completely underway. We will shortly be starting, as you can see from this shot, this area here represents the foundations for the black box theatre, which we're calling Free Space. Already completed is this facility here, which is the M+ Pavilion, and the Permanent Secretary touched on that, and I'll come back to that in a minute. The important thing to bear in mind is that this site, which represents essentially the park, will also include this area here, which is adjacent to the M+ Museum site, will be an underground car park with park over the top. At the other end, this site here is our temporary nursery park, which is already operational, has been up for over a year now, and is where we held our very, very popular Free Space happening events. I mentioned the pavilion. As you can see, this is already up, running, operational. It's a lovely little building. I call it a jewel box, and it'll be fantastic when the park is surrounding it, the trees grow up. This facade, which is reflective, means that this building will essentially disappear into the park. It's a lovely design by Hong Kong architects, young Hong Kong architects, and we're very proud of what they've done. Of course, within the park, I touched on the Free Space. This is a 450-seat black box theatre. Adjacent to it will be a 10,000-seat open space where we can do pop concerts and large-scale events, serviced by the Free Space building. And then indoors there's a small, essentially a cafe-type facility where we can do more intimate events, jazz or poetry reading. These projects which don't really have a space, and we will give that space within the park. I just want to give you a walkthrough, just to give you a little feel of what we are planning for this wonderful site. And it'll take you from the museum down to the waterfront. And as you come from the museum, you'll see heavy planting, a wide range of Hong Kong species that have been currently placed in the nursery park to test them, to make sure that they're suitable for this site. As you can see on the right is the M+ Pavilion, and as we walk further down into the park, you'll come eventually to this fantastic location right on the waterfront. And I'm giving you the evening view because honestly, this is the $10 billion view. This is the view that everybody will want to have because it is the most fantastic sight. And can you imagine watching the fireworks, Chinese New Year, and having that view? Fantastic. That is going to be the most popular place in town, I can guarantee that. Of course, adjacent to it, let me clear that, is the M+, our major museum. This is a fantastic building designed by Herzog and de Meuron, with Terry Fowles and Ove Arup as the partners in Hong Kong. Actually, and people don't really realize this is the main museum. The main museum space is here. This is the office and restaurant dining facilities. Behind it is the conservation building and storage, and adjacent to that will be an RDE building with space for arts and other groups. That as a complex is currently under construction. Inside the building, of course, we have again to deal with this issue. This site that we have, while it looks wonderful and is a fantastic site, is already riddled with many different underground facilities. And here you can see essentially the MTR, the Airport Express, going right the way through the building. Again, the design has had to accommodate that, and in this case, they celebrate it. Gallery spaces coming off what would have been essentially the representation of the roof of the MTR. Above that, the entrance level. These trusses represent the solution to how do we avoid crushing the railway. Well, you put a bridge over it, and they form the structure that is now being put in place to support the building. And of course, above that, various gallery spaces. This is just one. There will be numerous different gallery spaces with different lighting, different effect, different sizes to suit the wonderful collection that we're already building up. And as you can see from the site, work is very, very well underway. If you go down to the site today, you'll see these red trusses being put in place. They are to support that long-term installation of the major trusses that will hold the building up. And within the next 2 or 3 months, those trusses will be installed, and then the building will suddenly start to emerge from the ground. Adjacent to the M+ will be the Lyric Theatre complex, and I can say this is probably the first time we've showed this image of the Lyric Theatre. I can say that foundation works are already underway for this important building for us. But within, as the Permanent Secretary said, we'll have 3 purpose-built theatres. One, the main theatre here, 1,450 seats, designed for dance. The medium theatre and the studio theatre, much more flexible, but also able to take in theatre. There'll be warm-up spaces. There will be a dance centre. This will become what we believe will be a major hub for dance in the territory and, of course, within the district. And the theatres themselves are going to be wonderful spaces, very immersive, very engaging with the audience, with the stage. Using the opportunity to make sure that we provide seating for the disabled, we provide access for the disabled, we provide those resources that are important for everybody to enjoy the art form. But of course, the reality is, again, we have to deal with the situation we have on the ground. They're not all at ground level, they're stacked. We have to deal with those issues. And that's some of the operational challenges that we're looking at. Outside, of course, we will have the Artist Square. This is going to be one of the main entrance points to the district. It will provide the opportunity for red carpet events. It will provide us with a setting which will set off the buildings and give us really what I think will become a very community-focused but active art space within the district. Important, of course, we must connect it to make sure that our access is as convenient as it possibly can. And plans are well advanced. The design is completed for the Artist Square Bridge. This will link us directly into the elements. This is the elements across here. This is Artist Square here. This is the elements here. It's going to be a very important all-weather access that we must get installed in time for the opening of the major facilities around that Artist Square, including the museum and, of course, the Lyric Theatre itself. I understand the government will be coming to seek funding for this in the new year. The other issue that is important, of course, we need to link the Situ Centre into the Austin Road, Austin Station. And here the design is for an underpass. It's not suitable to put a bridge in, but we can put an underpass in. Work is at an advanced stage for this, and again, funding application will be submitted. Now, I just want to end, before I go on to some of the programming side, just to let you know, one of the things that we value and put priority on, of course, is the green credentials for this site. And I have to say, the team has done really, really well to secure the highest certificate level of platinum from the Beam Plus neighbourhood pilot version administered by the Hong Kong Green Building Council. This is an important statement for us. We are committed to make this as green as we possibly can, given the complexity of the site and given the nature of the facilities that we're building. But I also need to brief you on the cultural aspects. If I stopped there and said, right, that's all we're doing, honestly, I'd be misleading you. We are building buildings, but more importantly, we're building the content and the future audience. Must start with Situ. Of course, this is not something that we can do alone. We need to work with partners. And we've done some very good work so far with the Shanghai Center of Chinese Operas. Indeed, we recently signed an agreement with them which will allow us jointly to develop programs as well as training opportunities and other programs. And we will continue to work with the leading Situ companies in the mainland, Taiwan and other places to make sure that the performers here have access to the best forms of training and the best opportunities. Of course, we're also programming. We don't have a venue yet, but we're using the venues that exist. The Koshan Theatre, for example. We're now coming up in February for the third iteration of the Rising Stars of Cantonese Opera. This has proved to be very successful. It's been something that we've targeted, for example, the last time, looking at how we can get younger people in. We're running matinee sessions. We're doing unorthodox productions. We're not necessarily following the traditional productions. We're trying to be creative and original in how we program this. Also, beyond that, the other art forms are getting attention. The Producers Network, series of meetings and forums, both public meetings as well as private, professional level meetings behind closed doors, giving opportunities for people to come together, not just from Hong Kong, but also from the region, from China and Southeast Asia, working together to develop new programs, new opportunities, creative ideas in different areas, multimedia, dance, theatre. All of these different areas are being tackled even before we have one facility open and running. We're working with local organizations, in this case, the City University School of Creative Media. We're collaborating with Hong Kong Ballet, with the School of Creativity at the ICC. We're also working with the Arts Development Council. We're giving opportunities for local performers, local artists, local producers, not just to meet people in Hong Kong, but to go abroad, to have a placement, 2-3 weeks, 2 or 3 months, learn and then bring back and share that experience as they come back. This is the way that we're going to be able to really take that cultural leadership position and give people in Hong Kong access to the talent that is so evident here and give people internationally the opportunity to understand what we see on a daily basis. Of course, we also are looking to the practical side of things. We want people to work in the district. We want people to understand these are going to be working opportunities for them. The best way now, before we have any of our facilities, let's have an internship program. And within the district now, we're employing something like 66 interns throughout the year on 3 or 6 month periods, giving them an opportunity, both in the performing arts as well as in the museum sphere, to work with us and understand what we're doing. In addition to all of that training and programming opportunities, we're running programs ourselves. This is a very interesting one, took place on top of our site office. couldn't really have a big audience. It's very restrictive for safety reasons. But this gave us an opportunity to reach over 22,000, nearly 23,000 people through using the technology, the internet, video projections. We also had simultaneous interpretation on your phone. We're trialing out all these different technologies that will make Hong Kong the center for arts and culture in this region. And of course, and I'll come back to this later, we're making sure that it's not just about Antigone, it's about everybody having an opportunity to really enjoy the space, even though it's being developed, even though it's under construction. The free space happening last year, as the Permanent Secretary said, 50,000 plus visitors already this year. We're up, heading in that direction, and we've still got 3 months to go. Come down, 8th of January, the next free space happening. It's going to be a lot of fun. Strongly recommend, and I'll come back to that at the end. As part of that, we're dealing with dance. We're engaging the community. You'll see here we have people that are disabled, we have youngsters, we have professionals, we have amateurs. We want them to get out, get sweaty, and get dancing. That's what this is all about. It's about people enjoying themselves. Of course, the museum, another important area of our work. We're talking about the M+ Pavilion. The importance of this to us is it gives us the first permanent base within the district to showcase the collection that we're building up. The first exhibition, Zhang Qinhua, Hong Kong artist, that we took with the ADC to Venice for the Biennale last year, brought him back, put on an exhibition, very, very good exhibition at the M+ Pavilion. Currently underway is the second exhibition, which is the shifting objectives. As part of that exhibition, it's about design. Hong Kong design, Asian design, and honestly, if you haven't been, strongly recommended. It's eye-opening what has been done in the last few years in design in this part of the world, and that will go through to the 5th of February. Thereafter, another exhibition every couple of months. There'll be further exhibitions coming on, showcasing different aspects of our collection. For example, the next one will be all about popular culture, changing that perspective of what a museum is all about. But the museum, in terms of the exhibition, that's just part of what we do. It's an important part, and it's why we build the collection. But it's also something that we need to make sure that people understand. A museum is more than just a physical presence. And for that, we've set up the M+ Rover, the traveling creative studio. We're taking the art out to the people. We're encouraging people, children particularly, to get involved with art. They're the ones that we've got to grab. Grab them as soon as they're born. Get them with a paintbrush in their hand. Get them thinking about art. That's how we encourage the future artists and the future creative people in Hong Kong. Along the same lines, the M+ Summer Camp. Slightly older students, secondary school. Hundreds of students. We've now done 2. We'll be doing another one next year. We involved instructors, artists and university students to volunteer to help out in this area. And of course, the museum isn't just about art. In one sense, it covers contemporary art, it covers design and architecture, it covers moving images, and we regularly put on screenings at Broadway Cinematheque, and the one that we've had up until very recently, Home Movie, was very popular. Other programs, I talked about internships on the performing arts side. Of course, we have internships and docent programs on the museum side. We also look at how we can engage volunteers so that by the time the museum is open, we have a good group already there who understand the philosophy, who are engaged with what we're doing. So, Mr. Chairman, I would just want to end with a short video to give you a taste of what we're really trying to do. It only takes about a minute, but it's worth watching. And bear in mind, you could all participate in this on the 8th of January. This is what it's all about. If you turn the volume up, it really gets you going. Yeah, get up and dance. Enjoy yourselves. This is about enjoyment. This is about a project for the future of the people of Hong Kong. And you can see people are there already enjoying the site. That's not me, by the way. Dogs are welcome. Apparently we've had lizards, we've had cats, we've had hamsters. I saw a porcupine and a parakeet. They're very popular. Bring your animal. So, Mr. Chairman, happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. 好啦，咁我就
I now ask members to ask questions. We have 3 members who have pressed to speak. Each will have 4 minutes. First, Ms. Claudia Mo.
That you've signed a cultural exchange agreement with the Shanghai Center of Chinese Operas. Can I lament once again that the fact that on the mainland, Chinese operas are called Chinese operas, but in Hong Kong, it has to become something rather weirdo, xi qu, in order to be politically correct. But then I knew, of course, it's too late to get that changed now. I have 2 basic questions. The first one is, you mentioned the fact that the footbridge that's going to be linked to the shopping mall elements would need to have funding, would need to make funding applications to LegCo, right? Exactly how many more works or projects that would need such funding applications, and what's the lump sum you would be talking about, or can you give us a breakdown of all those applications? That's my question number 1. And number 2, can you assure this council that the rest of the works are all on schedule and none of them carries any runaway costs? And question number 3, the high-speed rail works delay. Now, we all knew it's affected the entire West Kowloon Cultural Project. What's the latest? Do you have anything to report to us? Thanks.
Mr. Duncan.
Yeah, what do you want to do with the first one first?
Yeah. Okay. 多謝毛孟
Thank you, Ms. Mo, for your question. I will defer to Mr. Prescott about the cost overrun in relation to the second part of your question. And in relation to the footbridge linking to from WKCD and Element, we plan to, in the second quarter of next year, seek members' review of the subcommittee, and then we will make funding applications from the PWSC and the Finance Committee. How much? We're now working on the estimate. A ballpark figure, perhaps? A ballpark figure. We have not finished with the estimate, so I can't give you an exact figure, but we will come back to this subcommittee to consult you. And in our works schedule, it says that at around the 3rd meeting, we will be able to give you more information in this subcommittee. And in relation to government-funded projects, there are mainly 2 parts. First is public infrastructural works. And the second part, as you may recall, is the government's undertaking that we will fully fund the basement, and we will go to LegCo for funding approval. And in July 2015, we have already obtained $3 billion for advance work of the basement. And later this year, we will come here and the Finance Committee to apply for funding for the remaining part of the work. So for the basement work and the footbridge, we will go to the FC within this legislative year. But you can't give me the ballpark figure. And you ask the LegCo to give you funding. I have given a figure before. It was Zone 3A, Zone 3B, and 2B. It's about $10 billion, excluding 2A and basement of 2A and 2C. So we don't have an estimate for the overall figure. Dr. Helena Wong. Hong Kong people have been waiting for a long time for WKCD, and yet they have to wait some more. And I thank the WKCDA for making arrangements for us to have a site inspection. And I'm glad to see that there are some exhibitions taking place in the pavilion, but it's now embedded in a construction site. Not many people know about it, and it's not easy to get to. I think you have to find some way to let people know that right in the middle of the construction site, there is a pavilion. Perhaps you should take the initiative to liaise with schools or organize tours to get there. It doesn't give a good impression. People don't want to go. Perhaps you can make a nice path leading there, a covered path to take people there. A lot of the hardware is under construction, so can it be expedited, and can more be done to make it better? In your presentation, you talk about reaching out to the community on art education and summer camps. They are brilliant ideas. And I have a question. How many people in the WKCD team are responsible for art education and promotion? How many people are there responsible for that? And with the commissioning of the hardware, how many more will there be? Because at this stage, we need more software because hardware is not ready yet. But the fact that the hardware is not ready should not stop people from learning about it, coming into contact with art. Because if we cannot build an audience, even with all the facilities in place, people will not be motivated to go there and enjoy the exhibitions or participate. So you need to put in more manpower to build software, and you should not wait until all the hardware is ready before you recruit, because you need to reach out to different bodies and schools. So in 2017-18, in relation to art education and promotion, any work plan, any timetable? Can you do more? Can you increase manpower? Mr. Prescott or Ms. Fong? I'll defer to the CEO.
A couple of questions there. Let me deal with them in order. In fact, we already do tours for school groups, district groups, community groups to the M+ Pavilion. In fact, as I was leaving this morning, we had a group going in as a community group, and that's already programmed in. It's a regular, every day we'll have tour groups going in. And I agree with you entirely. It's something we must continue to do. Indeed, we're doing a lot of publicity around the events, the programs that we're running there. For example, there are some installations in the MTR at the moment talking about the design exhibition. We're also working with schools and tour groups. For example, Suhanya did a training session for teachers to explain to them about the exhibitions, to bring them to understand, so that when they bring their children, they're already educated. So that outreach program is already in place. In terms of this issue of software development, absolutely. We have a team in the M+. We have a team now that were just recruited in the performing arts that are dedicated to education and development. And those teams, I think it's about 3 or 4, no, sorry, 10 on the M Plus side, and I think it's 3 or 4, oh no, 6 on their side. So I'm out of date. It's changing so rapidly.
So 10 altogether,
16.
they are 16. They
altogether.
are all full-time focused on doing art education.
That's right.
好，
And on top of that, we have the interns, and we have the docents, and we have these training programs for teachers.
It would be helpful if you can give us a timetable and a plan, concrete plan in coming years,
Sure.
2 years, so that we know what program you're running and in what way we can help to publicize the program.
Yeah. In fact, a lot of this information is on our website already. Obviously, that's the best source for most people to get that information.
好，請之後準備翻俾我哋嘅會啦，因為我哋都想
Would you please supply the information after the meeting, that is the timetable and the work plan, because we are waiting for that. Permanent Secretary, we send invitations out to members of the joint committees for them to participate as well. From what Ms. Helena May said, she would like to know beforehand about your plan in the next year. Well, once it's endorsed, we will be able to give you more information in the next meeting. Deputy Chairman, well, I hope there will be a second round. I want to be in that queue. There are lots of questions. We've been waiting for this for a very long time. I am quite excited. On the 8th of January, I've marked my diary to go there, and I think I will dance. I do have a lot of questions about connectivity. Sorry. First, the internship. You think 6 months is on the short side? Because if you want to train someone to fully understand what you do, it will take 2 or 3 months to learn the ropes, and then it will take another few months.
So if they can work as a curator, or if they work as a director to be involved, it might take more time. So 6 months might not be sufficient, because some friends have told me that by the time they really get a grasp on the job, it's already time up to end the program. And I hope you don't mind that there might be some political issue here. I see that you have a cooperation with Taiwan, and you might have deleted some terminology from the pamphlet relating to Taiwan. No, I think the West Kowloon Authority, they've expended a lot of effort. I can see that, and there are some issues that are beyond their control, and I see that compared to the previous documents, some items have been delayed. For example, the Lyric Theatre, that is late a little bit, and the Lyric Theatre was scheduled for 2020, and it's now 2022. So I'd like to ask, is it related to the high-speed rail link, the XRL? And so Mr. Pesco had also mentioned that vibration is a big problem, and noise is also a big problem for them. So a lot of their construction has to deal with these issues. So I'm concerned about that, and the Lyric Theatre and Sichu Center, the M+, there's a chance that these facilities might be affected by XRL. So I'd like to ask, how big is the impact of XRL on your construction? And I also have some questions about budget, but I'll need to follow up in the second round.
6 months too short for an internship? No, an internship by definition is a short-term exposure. It's not long-term training. These are usually people who are either summer holidays from university or fresh graduates who are still thinking about what they're going to do. We're giving them a taste. We're giving them an opportunity to get engaged. We think actually 3 to 6 months is more normal than longer for these sort of internship programs. On top of that, of course, we do have employment opportunities, and those would be much longer exposures. We also do training for our staff, particularly the younger staff, to help them in their career development. So all of that is part and parcel. But the internship is a particular program to let people get a taste of what we're doing and to see, is it suitable for them? Are they interested in what we're doing? Delays. One of the issues with Lyric is that the original concept was a single theatre.
Yes.
We took the view, because of various issues, that we would actually combine 2 more theatres into that complex, which of course has a consequential effect in terms of the design and the time it takes to do that. In terms of the design, however, I will say that the XRL in itself is already a known factor, just as the MTR line, the Airport Express line are known factors, and you design the buildings to accommodate that factor. As we've said, for example, Situ, the theatre's lifted above the noise and vibration. For example, in the museum, we're celebrating the line. Lyric, thankfully, only has a very minor issue, and those facilities will be isolated. They'll essentially be on springs so that the vibrations won't affect the performances. As for the other things, the other theatres that we are still to develop, that's something that will also take into account the nature of the installations within the XRL. However, I would say, if you remember the slide showing the site, it's really just the easternmost portion of the central section that actually has the railway line underneath. The rest is works areas. Once they're cleared, there's no impact at all. So we're bearing in mind that as part of our design.
Thank you. 咁啊，第二輪啦，好嘛？
Okay, let's move on to second round. 陳志全. Well, after reading through the document, we are aware of the project's progress. So my delegation, we had rented the nursery in September to organize the event Pink Dot. It was successful. Previously, it was held in Tamar Park, and Tamar Park said that there were too many people participating, and we were hurting the grass. And so this year, we relocated to the nursery, and I hope that doesn't have a negative impact on your grass. So I'd like to take you to Annex 2 of your paper. Interested in the layout, especially Phase 3 facilities, because our understanding, the third phase facilities, it depended on whether there was private participation, on whether there was a profit. So that is unknown, but looking at Annex A, Phase 3 facilities include the music center, the musical theater, and there's a red star attached. It says subject to private funding, but it's only attached to musical theater. So the great theater, the medium theater, does that mean you already have funding, or all the blue buildings still, the funding source is still unknown for those? And then we also have a hashtag for Center for Contemporary Performance. It says future development to be reviewed due to partial incorporation. I'd like to follow up on these items. So, as we explained in previous joint committee meetings, the 21.6 billion funding is sufficient for the majority of Phase 1, Phase 2 facilities. The hashtag means that in the Center for Contemporary Performance, the Black Box Theater, Mr. Pescod referred to that. It's already in Lyric Theater because the CCP site is still being used for XRL, so that's why we have situated earlier in the Lyric Theater complex. For Phase 3 facilities, we're working very hard on financial arrangement. The West Kowloon and the government are in close, intimate talks. We're confident that with the resources, we can start works on Phase 3. But as of today, we cannot disclose how to resolve long-term funding for West Kowloon. We hope that later on we can give you more details. Now, regarding this asterisk item, the musical theater, it's like a Broadway theater, like in London or New York, Broadway. We can have musicals staged there, and we believed that the business operation would be feasible. We wouldn't have to get funding from West Kowloon, so that's why we had a private-public partnership program, and it will not be funded by West Kowloon. We'll have a private-public partnership. That's why there's an asterisk. We also have a red star where we have this PPP arrangement. So can I understand it that the 4 blue facilities, out of them, the musical theater has the highest probability of being implemented? Yes, you can put it that way. Okay, my turn. I'm interested in the gray stuff. What is that? We have Lego blocks in gray. Could you elaborate? The gray structures in the 140 hectares of West Kowloon, less than half is for hotels, office and residential areas. So the gray blocks are the HOR, hotel and residential, so it belongs to the government. So you estimate this gray stuff, will it be built? And how much profit can the government generate? As we said just now, 2A, 2B, 2C zone, to the right of the Lyric Theater, all the way to the Xichu, that is still the XRL construction site. So we cannot build stuff until they relinquish it. So that's the XRL site. So in the future, so it will be owned by MTR or the government. The 40-hectare site will be managed by West Kowloon. So when XRL is completed, all the land will be reverted back to West Kowloon for management and operation. So the gray blocks include hotels, offices, shopping malls, and that will be assets of the West Kowloon Authority. Let me explain. In all the commercial land, only retail and dining comes under the management of West Kowloon, and the rest of development rests with the government. So in other words, when West Kowloon develops, the land revenue has to go back to the government under the existing financial arrangement. So what we see, phase 3 buildings, that is the blue blocks, we have musical theater. You say it's like Broadway, it's feasible, but the medium theater and music center, if that falls through, then who will foot the bill? Or are you not going to build it all? Well, that is not acceptable, because if you say, well, this is supposed to be the core when we talk about West Kowloon, Hong Kong needs international level performance venues, but now you're building other stuff, and what if this falls through? You can't be. Are you going to convert it into a residential development project? Well, this has to be set aside for cultural facilities. We never said that we would relinquish phase 3 projects. We will study our funding arrangements, and we hope in the future we can elaborate in this joint committee. Well, you need to understand, if you can't build, then you're wasting this West Kowloon site. It's not comprehensive. You'll be wasting money. And I also want to know, when can this be built? I'm 61 this year. When you said you were going to build West Kowloon, I was 48. Will I see it in my lifetime? Will you be building columbarium and where I can rest in peace? Well, in our financial discussions, if we are successful in the finance talks, we will have funding for Phase 3, and I hope that we have good news for Mr. Leung. So in the foreseeable future, we'd like to see Phase 3 built. Well, I hope you don't cooperate with real estate developers. If all the blue stuff, if we're going to have to rely on property developers, then all these developers, they will have a chance to use public funds to build and to enhance the value of their assets. So that's why they have to explain their financial arrangements. Mr. Eddie Chu? Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to follow up on Mr. Leung Gok Ng's question because I see in the outline zoning plan the Grey Theatre and the Lyric Theatre. In the middle, there's another grey Lego block. Between the blue and orange is a grey block. So, in the zoning, am I misreading this? Oh. I'm looking at the OZP, the zoning. It matches up with the gray stuff. In P32, we have a plot of land. It's a commercial land use.
Just now you mentioned, well, from what I can see, it's different from my understanding previously. Those grey blocks would generate revenue from land sale, but it would not be used to subsidize the 4 blue blocks. The understanding of the public at the beginning was that even with commercial elements, it's still of one zoning under the OZP, so it is one single development. How come you would have allowed developers to take a big step into this? Because if commercial elements are allowed to generate revenue, which will not go back to the WKCD, it's not right, because you need to see if the revenue generated can be used to sustain the WKCD. And if the revenue generated by the grey blocks will not go back into the development of the WKCD, then it's simply not right. P.S. The original idea of commercial activities, including residential and hotel use, is because in 2008, well, $21.6 billion has been given to develop the project by the government. And in 2008, there were a number of assumptions that $21.6 billion will be sufficient to build all the facilities, and the revenue from catering and retail will be sufficient to support the operation of the WKCD. And it's been almost 18 years, and there has been a lot of changes. Construction cost has increased significantly, and so far catering and retail has not generated anything because they are still sitting on a construction site. So the financial arrangement is different from what we had in mind in the first place. So we had to talk to the WKCDA to try to find ways to make use of the commercial development that belong to the government to sustain the project. In the last legislative year, the CS4A came to the Joint Subcommittee to talk about this. We have to start thinking along this line, otherwise we will not be able to build the third batch of facilities. Hopefully we'll be able to give you more details about the arrangement in the future. But this is the second round, same time allowed. Ms. Claudia Mo.
The question previously, my understanding is that you would need extra funding of about $10 billion on this entire project, mainly for public facility works, right? Footbridge and stuff. Is that correct? Is that all? $10 billion extra, that's it.
When I mentioned the 10 billion figure, I referred to the cost of the integrated basement for Zone 3A.
I know. So is that the amount you're talking about now?
No, because I have not taken into account the cost for building the basement for Zone 2A and 2C. So including the cost of the basement, integrated basement for these two zones.
For 2A and 2C, you will need to come back again.
Yes.
For extra funding.
Extra funding on top of the 10 billion that I've mentioned earlier on.
Oh, dear
That is
me.
for the integrated basement.
Okay. All right. The question for Mr. Pascoe. My understanding from our very last meeting is that Batch 3 is basically up in the air. It's gone, right? But you keep talking about public-private partnerships. So are you talking about privatization, essentially, of Batch 3? And privatization, oh, God. And how enthusiastic sort of response have you been getting from the private concerns? Thanks.
Let me make 2 points, and it's really to supplement what the Permanent Secretary was saying. As far as I'm concerned, we're going to build all of the Batch 3. That's my mandate. I don't have any other option. I'm going to get on with it. And so we're already looking at the design requirements for the next, what's next out of the Batch 3, probably the Music Centre, I suspect, and then we'll look at the other ones. So I absolutely disagree with you. They are not up in the air. They are being planned and they will be taken forward. Who pays for them is a different matter, but as far as I'm concerned, they'll be taken forward. The PPP option, I think, is something that has always been on the table, even at the earliest stage.
But didn't you think that's ethically not quite right? Because Hong Kong people had expected this project to be this and that initially, meaning it's not for commercial purposes right from the start. And now you're talking a lot of private investments in it. It's just not right. It's not the initial plan as Chiu Hoi Dik was talking about just now.
I have to disagree with you. From the start, there's always been commercial elements within this project. From day one.
Up to a point.
Always. So to say it's unethical or in some way wrong to involve the commercial elements, sorry, that's just a wrong statement. The reality is there's always been an element of commercial involvement in this. What we're looking at...
But more and more commercial.
No, again, from the start, the musical theatre has always been considered to be suitable for public-private partnership. The whole point about this project is it's a mix of different solutions to deliver the concept. The core arts and culture facilities, including the Great Theatre and the Music Centre, of course, will be paid for one way or another by the West Kowloon Cultural District Authority. However, there are other elements which don't necessarily have to be paid for because they are much more commercial in nature, and it's appropriate in those cases to look at a commercial solution. And I can say, to answer the second part of your question, there is a lot of interest because Hong Kong lacks a properly functional commercial theatre space. It does not have suitable space for these commercial events. And we're approached on a regular basis. I've had meetings in the last 3 months with 2 or 3 different groups desperate to come into the site, to come into Hong Kong, to run these programs. So I'm
commercial groups
commercial
you're
groups.
talking about,
Yeah.
Local or overseas?
Oh, I'm not going to characterize it. I'm just having those conversations.
Well, thank you. 副主席，好。
Sorry. Well, when we are talking about commercial involvement, it's only the musical theatre and the exhibition centre. When it comes to the great theatre and the medium centre and the music centre, they will be operated by the WKCDA. Please don't be confused that all blue blocks are operated by the private sector. Deputy Chairman, I would like to hear some clarification from the administration, from the Secretariat's paper. It was a 2015-16 paper. It's Secretariat's paper, Annex 1. That was year 2015 to 16. That was the paper. At the very top, it said that it says exhibition centers / major activity center, but now in Annex A it only said exhibition center, so there is no / something else, and I want to express the concern because back in 2014 you have applied to relax the commercial gross floor area. For the commercial use, it has increased by over 10%. So I want to ask, the exhibition center, is it the additional commercial gross floor area, or was it already included in the last application? So in relation to the exhibition center, we're talking about cultural activities. And if it is commercial activities, then it should belong to commercial use. And I have the OZP, the explanatory notes. And I want to know whether an application is needed from the TPB, the Town Planning Board, because it's column 2. Under column 2 is Exhibition and Convention Center. Does it come under that definition? It's very important. I have one that is 2007. Just now, Leung Kwok Hong said that he was 48. So I wasn't in my 30s when I was reading that, and I'm now 45 years old, and there's still nothing there. So I want to know, this exhibition center, how come that it has cropped up from nowhere and now is only exhibition center? Perhaps I will start first before I defer to the CEO. In the original plan is an exhibition center and major performing venue. But then it was decided that it is an exhibition center and major performing venue, then there won't be any interested parties in running it. And people think that if the development of a major performing venue in the WKCD is not viable, because in Kai Tak Sports Complex, there will be a sports complex seating 50,000 people. Understand? So the exhibition center, is it commercial in nature? No. Why not? Well, let me put it this way. The land use itself is a core cultural facilities. If that is interesting, so you mean the Wan Chai Hong Kong CEC is, and the Asia Expo and also the Kowloon one, they are cultural facilities. No, I was only talking about the land use. It's a core cultural facility. You see that in the exhibition center, you see that the red asterisk was there in the old paper, in the 2015 paper, and it will be developed by PPP. Because if it's to operate like a great theatre, we're talking about a significant amount of expenditure. I don't want you to switch ideas. If it is commercial land use, you have to make an application to the TPP. Don't try to muddy the water. I've been following this for 15 years. We've been through a lot. Say, for example, the single tender, which has been quashed. The government also listened to public views and reduced the development density. And now things have been added bit by bit. If you think it is culture, well, unless they have some antique jewelry or antique cars, then it may be cultural. Perhaps I will defer to Mr. Prescott about the latest ideas.
I think the key issue here is what is being planned for that site consistent with the development plan, which has been approved by the Chief Executive in Council, and of course it will be fully consistent with the development plan. As far as the details of any individual development within the site, of course, if there's a requirement for a Section 16 application, that would be done. But I can't anticipate at this stage even that being necessary, to be frank with you. The decision taken by the board to move in the direction of the exhibition centre and not to have the multi-performance venue was taken a few months back because of the realisation of what's happening elsewhere in the territory.
I understand. I totally
and it's
understand.
because of that we're looking at a different solution for the site. But I can assure you that we have no intention of going back through the development process, the development plan process. That's set, that's what we're working to, and we'll stick with that.
主席，我點解會咁緊張？我講一句啫。
Just one line. I'm very concerned because there is also the literary museum. But you don't want that, but you put in place an exhibition center.
So I will allow sufficient time for questions. You can follow up. Eddie Ju? Well, Ms. Chan referred to a literary venue. So is it possible to include that? So in the contemporary, in the CCP, in the future, can we locate a literary facility there? Well, we are aware that there are some aspirations and requests that there be a literary venue in the West Kowloon, but there has been no consensus because there's a different understanding on the use of this venue. So we don't have any plans for this facility in our we have other arts and culture facilities, so maybe we can set aside some space for literary works so the authority and the related stakeholders can look into that. But currently we don't have such a facility in our plan. I know you don't have plans, but it's been brewing over the years that a local community group has been fighting for this facility and venue. Ms. Hui Hiu-Fai had also participated, so I think it's receiving a lot of support. So I'm asking, do you have any timetable for considering including a literary facility in the West Kowloon project? We don't have a timetable. We don't have concrete discussions. Well, so you said which area could be considered? Well, you're saying that there might be a space set aside in the CCP. Well, you just tell us where it could be located. Well, I need to talk to the authority because they own the land, and we can respond later. So, the West Kowloon Authority, can you respond?
One of the interesting things about this development is that we have what's called core arts and culture facilities, which are clearly the blue facilities on the site. We also have other arts and culture facility opportunities within the overall GFA available within the site. And we are always looking out for ideas as to how we could use those other spaces. So far, we've had numerous different suggestions, including, for example, resident companies from theatre, from dance, etc. This is an idea we could certainly look at. It won't be within the blue buildings, it certainly won't be within the CCP site, but there are other sites that we can look at. I don't know if you were here at the beginning when I showed the photograph of the M Plus building. You will remember there were two buildings behind that, one of which is another OACF building. And if there was some interest, we could perhaps look at maybe 1 or 2 floors in there for that sort of opportunity. There will be more coming on later, and again, we could look at those. But I'll be quite frank with you, at the moment, my focus is on delivering the core arts and culture facilities, because that's what the people of Hong Kong are waiting for, and that's where our emphasis is.
OK 啦，咁啊，最後一輪好嘛，副主席。
主席唔好意思啊。
Last round. Question on hardware. First of all, I know the Lyric Theatre has rehearsal space. So how much rehearsal space do we have in West Kowloon? A lot of these troupes, they need time to rehearse either dance or music, and they need a lot of space. So since you have so many buildings, do we have dedicated rehearsal venues? And second, looking at the past, you know, this is our 4th incarnation of the joint subcommittee. So some people have said that could we have some space to introduce the situ, such as maybe a library? Could we have some kind of installation? Honestly speaking, the Avenue of Stars, where they have the handprints, there's only a name next to the handprint. There's no biography. It's a shame. We have 2 deceased opera stars who are only reduced to a handprint and a couple of lines. So in the Situ Center, shouldn't we have some bio data, some installation? Well, if you've been to the airport, you know that they have a little installation. So could we do a little bit better than that?
Let me deal with Lyric first. Yes, there are rehearsal spaces, there are warm-up spaces, there's even physiotherapy space. The intention is that there will be space for, I think it's 3 potentially different organizations operating within that space as resident companies.
Okay.
They're large and small rehearsal spaces, so I think it's about 9? 9 rehearsal rooms within the Lyric. So yes, absolutely, we want to encourage them to become a base for dance. On the C2 side, 2 things. We're already working now to do some documentation online so that everybody can access it, of the scripts, etc., for the plays, for the performances. So that's already something that we're looking at. Beyond that, we're looking at the spaces, because within the C2 Centre there are educational spaces, there's a seminar hall. All of those can be used for extolling the virtues of this wonderful art form. So yes, that's something we are considering. And obviously, around the C2 Centre and within the atrium area, we could do something there as well. So we're looking at different spaces now as to how that site will be operated. So those ideas we're happy to look at.
主席嗰個 atrium，我哋嗰日去。
Chairman, when we visited the atrium, we understand that it's an open design. It's open 24/7, but we're worried about the inclement weather and how it would damage the exhibits. We understand there is insurance and other safeguards, so we would like the Sichu Center We would like it to be developed to its full potential. The Sichu Center, we are working with the industry on preservation of exhibits. We are collecting scripts and we are working on our website. We also have long-term education programs in the atrium. We have exhibition space, as Ms. Tan Sok Jong mentioned. We have a lot of people visiting that area, so we understand we have to be careful with management. So on the next occasion when you visit the Sichu Center, we hope to have more on display. Okay, thank you for the progress update. We move on to the next agenda item. That is Young Designers Competition for Temporary Pavilion. Do we have another presentation? Yes, we have the authority to take us through this competition.
I can just very briefly start and explain what we're doing. This is an idea, I'll be honest, we're copying. It's not an original idea. It's something that is done elsewhere. But we feel it's something that Hong Kong young designers and architects will get a really good exposure if we take it forward. Maybe I can ask Kingsley to just take us through this short presentation and he can explain in more detail exactly what we're thinking about.
Thank you very much. Yes, as Duncan mentioned, this is an idea that's been done successfully elsewhere in the world, and we think it would adapt itself very well to Hong Kong. Just to give a bit of background, some of you may be familiar with the Serpentine Gallery Pavilion that run every year. It's been running for 15 years, attracts over 300,000 visitors. There have also been other good examples. MoMA, PS1 in New York has done a pavilion competition. They have now turned this into actually a franchised business that they take around the world, actually. More recently in Melbourne, it's been running for 2 years, the M Pavilion, which has been very, very successful, and also the National Gallery of Victoria Architecture Commission. And one thing you'll get a sense of here is how diverse the spaces are that are created by different architectural teams. We ourselves have located a spot within the nursery park. It's actually on the waterfront. It's a really, really attractive position, looking towards the harbour. You get a lovely sunset from there. And it's located near to the food kiosk and just on the edge of where the tree areas is in terms of the nursery park. The actual space itself is 9 metres by 27 metres, and you can get some other views here. It's a flat concrete slab. If you've been to Free Space Happening, you'll see that often it's been covered anyway because we cover it to hold events there, and the idea is that the brief would recognise that this is something that's been used for activities and events and provide some form of shelter. So just to run through the objectives, and again we've illustrated with some images from elsewhere to give a feel for what we're trying to do. Provide a platform for local young talent in the field of architecture and design, showcase their skills, gain invaluable experience, enhance the vibrancy and cultural ambience of the West Kowloon Cultural District, particularly around the nursery park, particularly as we're going through this period of heavy construction. It gives us a way of attracting people to the site, and I think it really bridges this idea between the hardware and the software. Raising the profile of Hong Kong design internationally, creating a new space for the public to engage with WKCD, and creating a model for the park and other space in the district. We hope that this would become a recurring event, and we would do this every year, as is done elsewhere with these type of pavilion competitions. The brief we've kept deliberately simple, creating an iconic and inviting architectural open space for people to enjoy. We imagine there'll be casual activities there, so people can relax, they can sit, we can do talks. But mostly it should really, really reinforce the artistic values we aspire to have within the district. Obviously, we have to keep it simple and cost-effective in design. The plan is that it can be built easily, dismantled, and be relocatable. Ideally, we would relocate to another space in the future. The brief itself, again, we keep very, very simple to allow maximum opportunity for creativity. So ideally focusing on sustainable materials, green features, natural ventilation, which is in the spirit of the ideas behind the district, be inclusive and accessible to all, a one-level structure with perhaps a higher ceiling or roof, but really keep them to one level, and require no additional provision of services apart from those available. And obviously it has to meet all the structural and safety criteria, satisfy all the requirements. In terms of eligibility, some of the competitions around the world focus on overseas designers, some are for people who are more experienced. We want to keep this very much for Hong Kong residents. We want to keep people at the beginning of their career because that is the future, I think. So we're looking at people who are currently enrolled in undergraduate or postgraduate studies, people who are who worked in or in the beginning of their career, i.e. within the first 7 years. So these are people very much at the beginning of the career ladder and encouraging them to actually get, and a key part of that is how we do it in terms of the mentorship. So essentially what we will do is we will invite entry, they'll be adjudicated by jury panel, and we'll select 3 designs to take forward. The mentors who will come from West Kowloon, from the judges and from others, will work with the shortlisted competitors to guide the process of design development. This is an important part because we're really, really looking to encourage their creativity. We don't expect the people doing it to be experts on all the details of the construction. We don't expect to know all about the bureaucracy or all the details. We will guide them through that process. The key is we get their creativity in its purest form. And the final winning design will be taken forward to construction for display in the district. The other designs, we would encourage them to be taken forward elsewhere. We would hope that they can have a future life in another place. And there will be a prize for the winning entry and the 2 complementary entries. And a key part of this as well is, in terms of the judges, in terms of West Kowloon, we would really, really want to work with the shortlisted entries and give them a chance to have some period of immersion, understanding more about what we do in the district, working with some of the international judges, and really, really getting a chance to broaden their experience. So I think it offers a good opportunity, and we would really, really seek to document the whole process in terms of creating positive outputs in terms of video and other materials. And we will obviously go out, and we've already started contacting organisations for support, and we've had very positive feedback. These obviously include the architectural organisations, HKIA, we're talking about design organisations, all the Hong Kong tertiary institutions, and we will obviously contact institutions overseas where they may have Hong Kong residents studying. So we've had a very good positive response, and we think we'll get a very broad range of support. And hopefully, as I say, this creates a model that we could then replicate in future years. That's it.
Okay, thank you.
Let's see if there are questions from members. Ms. Claudia Mo.
Of basic, simple questions. When you talk about eligibility, you say all Hong Kong residents. I would take it to mean all ID card holders, but you don't have to be a permanent Hong Kong resident, right? That's correct, right? Goody. And question number 2, you talked about local design organizations on top of architectural designs. Interior design is one area, of course. But then I got the impression that fashion design may not be included, because you're talking about a functional pavilion, right? And it has to be functional. You wouldn't allow, say, exhibitionism? As a form of art.
Sorry, exhibitionism in the form of nudity, we would certainly encourage that within the district. I have no problem with that. It's a personal choice. The point here is we want to encourage anybody. We're approaching the professional organizations simply because they're the ones that are registered and who may have interest. But if someone comes along with a great idea, we'll have a look at it. We'll let the judges judge it. We're not excluding anybody. The only requirement is, as you say, that they're Hong Kong ID card holders. That's it. Beyond that, the creativity, and Kingsley emphasized that point. It's creativity that we really want. We'll help them translate it into something buildable.
You will welcome fashion design students' entries as well. Giddy. You see, that was my misunderstanding. Because you talked about also beware of wind loading factors and things.
That's correct.
Then
well,
I
they have
thought
to be buildable.
It's all very functional, all very physical, not necessarily. Fine. My last question is your winning entry. Do you have some grand prize to entice more?
Of course, they're going to have their entry built. That's got to be the best prize. There'll be some cash involved as well, plus...
How much?
I'm going to keep that quiet for now. I want that to have impact, because I want it to have impact when we announce this. But in addition to a small cash prize and having their entry built, we hope that they'll have the opportunity for a placement 2-3 weeks with some of the leading architects in the world to help them advance their careers. That is the value of the prize. It's this learning experience that we want to give people.
And that's also what you mean by immersion opportunities. So immersion opportunities is during the competition, not after.
During
there's some goodies after.
And subsequently. Because of course, after the competition is announced, the winner will be then offered the opportunity for this placement for 2 or 3 weeks.
Okay. Fine. I'm fine. Yeah.
了解下咧，因為其實我都去參觀過西九啦，頭先都講過啦。呢一個地方咧，同即係
I have been to WKCD. I'm actually talking about free space. How close is it with from construction site? As you know that it's quite close to the harbour. What about the wind speed? They may be quite windy, and I'm talking about safety. It's also very close to workspace that is construction site. So I want to know more information.
Is the site we're talking about? It's within the nursery park. This is the nursery park site. It is exposed, and that's why we said safety is one of the primary considerations when we develop whichever is the winning design. So the winning design has to be aesthetically pleasing, but also has to be structurally sound. One of the reasons we're only doing it for 6 months is to avoid the worst of the weather, the typhoon season. And in any case, the best time to use these things is the winter anyway.
Absolutely.
So that is for sure. In terms of the site itself, it won't have any effect on free space because we already use this site for various different purposes, and we simply program around it. So we've already taken that into account.
好，主席，我另外都想追問下咧，因為咁難得咧，可以即係贏啦，咁跟住又可以即係成個會見到個實物啦，咁又話想即係。
Of course, you will win if you participate. You may win, and you may see your idea materialized, and an opportunity of an immersion. So I want to ask, would there be installations, would there be exchange opportunities? Would there be opportunities for designers to showcase their products overseas, because it will be good for their own image and also the image of the WKCD, and it's an exchange opportunity.
What we want to do is to time this, for example, when there are overseas visitors in Hong Kong. Business of Design Week would be one example, Art Basel would be another example, and those would give the exposure to overseas visitors. But of course it's located here. So yes, of course, we'll publicize it, but if you want to see it, you'll have to come to our site. Now, that's the basic requirement. But as Kingsley also suggested, we want this to be something that could be moved and rebuilt somewhere else. in those cases, if someone from overseas were to come to us and say, look, we'd like to put it up in, London or Paris or what have you, because it's removable, if they're willing to pay for it, why not? We'll happily share it with them. So we're bearing that in mind. But honestly, this is about Hong Kong and something in Hong Kong. The external is additional benefit if we can get it.
明白，主席，因為我都見到咧，因為佢哋做即係介紹嘅時候咧，都引用咗好多。
Thank you. In the presentation, I see that they've cited a lot of overseas examples. So if there is any opportunities for overseas exchange, it will be good for local designers and also the image of Hong Kong. This may involve additional work, but is killing two birds with one stone. Please consider it. Yes, it's worth considering. You want it to be more attractive to potential participants, and this will be one. Mr. Abraham Sheikh. Thank you.
Totally support the idea of this design competition, but art design, there's no boundary to age, there's no boundary to race, nationality. But going in for young, why not for the older one? Elderly one, because design, there's no boundary. Why should you discriminate in your entry? That's one aspect. Second aspect is you confine to graduates, undergraduates, but there's a lot of local industry like bamboo japang. There's a lot of apprentices. I mean, Duncan would remember in the Festival of Hong Kong, there's a lot of bamboo designs going on, but why not include them? I think you have confined your entry to such a restrictive level. I might have misunderstood, but looking from what you have just presented, it's rather narrow. So I suggest that we're introducing the whole concept of Western Kowloon District as a cultural area. You should actually embrace this more inclusive, that irrespective of age, colors, any design, anyone come in, that you should welcome them. That is what the whole concept of West Kowloon WKCD is all about. So I suggest that you also take into consideration of the local designs. That is a lot of those is actually looking around. You can see that. So, talk to some of your colleagues that they can share with you on the different local design aspect and cultural. Okay?
Okay, Mr. Pesco.
In fact, absolutely, I agree with you. The reason that we pitched it as towards young people is that we want to give them a showcase opportunity, because let's be honest, someone who's older probably is more established in their job, is more able to demonstrate their capability and has had a track record. We're trying to give this as a boost, a step up for younger people. That's the only logic. But honestly, if members felt strongly it should be open to everyone, we don't feel strongly about that. It will just mean more entries, which is good. On the second point, as we have stressed, this is not exclusive to architects or designers or anyone else. We were talking about fashion design there. We don't have that
need
restriction.
To listen to my colleagues, the honourable colleagues. You said just out of the blue. Just do what you think is done. We can tell you things that you can do, but you don't really need to pay attention. Just do. I mean, even myself. That I appreciate that you have concern for young, but there's a lot of old unsuccessful designers who haven't got the luck to be successful. So they also need the space to really demonstrate. Yeah. So I just said we should not be discriminatory. That's all.
I certainly, let me assure you on the second one, we're not excluding anybody. So that I can assure you. I'll look again at this age issue, the young as opposed to other people. What I might do is every other year do one open and one just for young designers, so that we can cover both. That may be the best way, because I really don't think it's something I want to encourage people to have too much competition. I'd rather they were competing among themselves, and we can look at this as a separate option.
Thank you.
好，何君堯而家這呢形容。
Anything from Mr. Sheikh? No. Mr. Janice Ho.
We're with some other meetings, failing to attend the meeting in time. Probably I might have missed something, but a quick question for any one of you. pardon for my ignorance about the progress of the existing. This is the West Kowloon Cultural District. My question is, I've just quickly glanced through the paper and realizing that 21.6 billion has been allocated for this project, and probably it's a stage one to implement the nursery park, now the M+ pavilion, and also the free space, and all these are the things which have been complete or about to be complete. But my question is, how about some other complex, theaters? Do we have any schedule for those anticipated to be completed? If so, at what time it would be for the entire completion of at least those being colored, the buildings being colored, starting from the CG Center up to the M+ building. Altogether, I've quickly glanced, counted at least 8 or 9 buildings, blocks, theaters, centers, great theaters, lyric theater complex. What's the schedule for completing the rest of the project, if so, and how much it would be? Oh, thank you.
It's a question about the last agenda item, perhaps, sir.
Question which have been covered already in the paper.
多謝何議員嘅提問。呢個咧
Thank you, Mr. Ho. We've answered many times in the last agenda item. Never mind, $21.6 billion is sufficient for the majority of facilities in batches 1 and 2, save and except the black box theatre. For batch 3, we don't have the funding yet, but we're talking to the WKCDA about an enhanced financial arrangement. We hope that within a very short time we'll be able to come back to the LegCo to give you an account. We're confident with the financial arrangement there will be resources for the WKCDA to build other facilities. That's for short. And just some follow-up question. So altogether, the best guess for batch 3, how much do you need, and when will the shows start? When will it start operating? For the third batch, that is the area in blue, we don't have an estimate yet. We need to have an estimate. We have to proceed with the design, but we haven't done that yet. And for the core facilities in orange and in red, that is the Lyric Center, it will soon be completed. For the CG Center, it will be for Chinese opera performances. And in orange, various performing arts will take place there, mainly with a focus on dance.
嗰個喺演藝劇場隔離嗰個就係一個 M+ 嘅大樓咧，呢個係視覺藝。
The red building is a visual art building, and in the coming 3 years it will be completed. What about the gray box? That's commercial development, right? The gray are the commercial land use, hotel, office, and residential, and also retail. Aside from retail belonging to West Kowloon, the office, hotel belongs to the government. So I was in another bills committee, so I hope I don't repeat the questions. I see that we have information on young designers competition. I support that. We need more opportunities for young designers. So after they win a competition, do they have any participation in the building, and how will they participate in the process? It was answered. We'll allow the response again.
Once they win the competition, we'll help them to then implement their design, and they'll be involved in that process, because we see that as a learning opportunity for them to learn how to translate a design which can be very creative, very aesthetic, into something practical which can be built. So they will be involved in that process, yes.
多謝佢一嚿實物咧，就喺翻嗰個即係苗圃公園嗰。
So the contractors, how will you identify the contractors? Will the competition winner select the contractor, or are there other procedures?
The intention is that we'll use one of our contractors. We have contractors come out of our ears at the moment. And indeed, that side, the construction side, will be our responsibility because it will be a facility within our district. We have the responsibility to secure the building's approval, fire services approval, etc. So that's our responsibility. What we're asking the designer is, don't worry about that. You design something that's special, something that's going to be unique for this site, that's going to be usable in the context of the criteria, and we'll take it forward with you.
Okay, yeah, thanks.
好，咁啊，第一輪就基本上問晒啦。咁啊，石禮謙議員係咪都再想問啊？
我想
Mr. Abraham Sheck, I'd like to follow up on PAS. I agree, but I hope you don't stray from the WKCD purpose. You're not here to make money. If you do make money, I hope you understand that a lot of people have tendered, they are building shopping malls and so on. I want to tell you that I don't support you competing with civilian projects because a lot of times these organizations, when they set up the original purpose, they will deviate from original purpose when they need to make money. When you compete in the market, you don't pay land costs and so on. You are just given the land. We have 21.6 billion invested there, and it's even more than that if you include interest and so on. So I can tell you, I will be keeping an eagle eye on your fine-tuning program. So in Kowloon West and Kowloon East, we will examine it from a macro perspective. Okay? Thank you, Mr. Sheck. We will take on board your views, and we don't have a big plan available yet, and we cannot respond in greater detail. Well, thank you, colleagues. The authority and government will take on board your views. We heard a lot about the competition and follow up. So, we now move on to AOB. Is there any AOB? If not, that would conclude our meeting today. Thank you for attending.